Welcome to Preparing for the Unexpected. I'm your host, Alex Fullick, and as always, we like to talk about things related to crisis management, business continuity, AI, resilience, anything that helps you, your organization, or your community prepare for, respond to, and overcome adverse situations. If you'd like to be a guest on the show, please feel free. You can find me on LinkedIn. I am the only Alex Fullick there. I'm really easy to find, and I do respond to everything I get. Today, I have a returning guest who did approach me about being a guest on the show a second time while attending the Business Continuity Institute's conference in London recently at, what was it, the early November, I think it was? Early
It
November,
was the last 2
October?
days of October,
That's
eventually.
right. Yeah, October 30th and 31st in London.
Yeah.
So I'd like to welcome back to the show today. We're going to talk about artificial intelligence and a whole bunch of other pieces related to that. Federica Marie Rita Livelli. Welcome back.
Hi, Alex. Thank you again for this opportunity. It's always a pleasure to be in contact with you, share you, and talking about these strategic topics that are part of our life nowadays,
Yes.
more than ever.
Now, it's been a while since you were on the show. Could you take a moment and tell us a little bit about yourself, what you do, and how you got into this crazy industry of ours?
Oh, well, I come from a very humanistic background, namely, and throughout my life, I find myself dealing with the risk, business continuity, and recently cybersecurity. So it was a natural consequence to be more and more involved in these topics, get certified, becoming a consultant in resilience, risk management, business continuity, and cybersecurity, and recently approaching the artificial intelligence environment. And I'm part of a scientific committees at Italian level in terms of risk management and insurance association, cybersecurity national association, and artificial intelligence national association, beside being part of the European Association of Risk Manager and Insurance Manager. I'm a teacher at different important Italian university. I created a resilience ad hoc course for a Swiss university recently, and I'm writing extensively on different online sectorial magazine on all these subjects.
Well, welcome to the show. And speaking of all that writing, Federica provided me lots of articles to read in preparation for the show today. So why don't we jump into some of the things that you've been talking about with AI
Yeah.
cybersecurity, okay?
Okay, for sure, ready.
Okay. And one of the articles you provided, you said, and I
Yeah.
quote, resilience of critical infrastructure stems from the intersection of risk management, business continuity, and cybersecurity. Can you explain what you mean by that?
Well, definitely we are in a unique scenario where there are a lot of critical infrastructures relying mostly on interconnected IT and OT systems. And so it's very important, being at the basis of our society, that these ecosystems achieve cyber resilience. That required definitely a strategic blend of risk management, business continuity, and cybersecurity. I consider this principle as a sort of golden team, because inevitably, in order to make our critical infrastructure more and more resilient, first of all, we need to know their context. We need to know what they are made of deeply. And this is important because knowledge is at the basis of everything, of our life, of our ecosystem, in order to identify the risks that can affect them. And in this very moment, in a very digitalized and interconnected environment, we need to protect this ecosystem that use a lot of technology, IoT, IIoT systems that require inevitably to be protected. And this, therefore, for me, this principle helps strategically in anticipating, preparing, responding, adapting to these incremental technological changes and avoid disruption in order to survive. And if we really succeed in identifying correctly all the risks, all the vulnerabilities, and the capabilities to address them and enable informed tactical and strategic decision, we can support with this principle our organization and build a strong long-term strategies. And by adopting these best practices that are namely also, beside being standard guidelines, so they show us the way towards the endless journey towards cyber resilience, we can also guarantee governance and the compliance of more and more strict regulation, considering the fact, for example, that at European latitudes, there is a real galaxy of regulation based on risk-based and resilience-based approach that is namely the intersection, the implementation of this three principle. And the fact that there is the requirement of practically embracing our ecosystem and with this principle, this helps us in guaranteeing also a more integrated, flexible and anti-fragile ecosystem, considering the fact that we need to making, a metaphorical transposition, to consider our critical infrastructure ecosystem as a sort of organizational orchestra where the directors are the security function, namely business continuity manager, risk manager, cybersecurity manager, all together contributing to the unison cyber resilience symphony, where all the components of the orchestra are the function in the metaphorical transposition, and namely they know their own repertoire, but at the same time they are able at unison to play the symphonic, resilience symphony. And it's very important to remind this metaphorical transposition, because it helps us to understand that we are one at all, reminding me to the esoteric expression ento pan, that is very valid even nowadays, because at the basis of everything there is knowledge, to get aware of the point of failure, the risk, that help us in defining better the strategies that we need in order to face these never-ending challenges derived from a very interconnected and digitalized world.
I'm wondering, because you were talking about the risk management, bringing together the managers in cyber and business continuity, who owns resilience then? Because they've all got their own viewpoint. They all report to their own different C-suite boss, if for the most part. So how do you bring
Well, in
resilience
a
out of that?
very structured organization and ecosystem, a new unit has been created that is called Resilience Unit that englobe all these principle and the relevant owner of this principle. In a small, medium-sized enterprise, obviously, it's not quite common to find even this, the risk manager, the business continuity, or the cyber security manager, or it is given the responsibility to only the IT function. But nowadays, I think that because there is these communicated vessels inside, outside the organization, we need to overcome the so-called silos and all together contribute to the main goal that is nowadays cyber resilience. And nowadays, more than ever, there is also the challenge derived by the use and implementation of artificial intelligence that can contribute further to this holistic approach, because we always speak about circular approach because it's even the representation of the implementation of these three principles in the ISO remind to the image of a circle. But nowadays, I think that we need to overcome the circular approach, and by the fact that the artificial intelligence is more and more part of our ecosystem, we need to bring back the human being, adding an additional dimension. So the circular approach typical of this three discipline is converted into a more spheric approach, bringing back at the center the role of human beings. And this reminds me also to the Vitruvian image of the man within the circle, but with the aspheric dimension. So something definitely, if you think we are going to the future, but we are back to the past because nothing is new. And as I always said, we need to consider the future as a past in freedom.
Well, we're going to talk
remembering
about
all the
AI
principle
shortly.
or the philosophy that is part of our culture.
Yeah. Well, we're going to talk about more about AI in one of our next segments. But I had one more question before we take a break. And that is to stay on the topic of cyber attacks at the moment, because you mentioned that a few times. So I'm curious to know, with some of the things that are going on, and you mentioned in your article, cyber attacks are increasing. Is that because hackers are getting better, or we're too slow in protecting ourselves?
Both. Both, because the increase of cyber attack can be attributed to both factors. We have on one side the advancement in technology that provide cyber criminals with more tools and techniques, sophisticated techniques to exploit, unfortunately, the system vulnerabilities. But at the same time, on the other side, with the rapid pace of technology, we can use the same artificial intelligence to improve our ability to implement robust cybersecurity. And in order to cope with the challenges of these increasing cyber attacks, we can rely on several, for example, solutions to reach our cyber resilience. And this is important to be achieved by considering the fact that all the organization should be involved. And therefore, there is more and more, especially nowadays with some EU regulation, for example, like NIS2 or DORA, that require all the organization and especially the top management to undergo an ad hoc planned training on cybersecurity, and also the fact that in order to guarantee a better resilience, we need to adopt advanced security technology that may rely on artificial intelligence and can better contribute in monitoring the cybersecurity scenario, detecting vulnerability or threat, and also contribute in making the incident response planning more and more performant. Therefore, there is the double edge of one technology that can be on one side positive and on other side negative. And there is an approach to combat fire with fire, if we can say that.
Well, on that note, we've come to the end of our first segment. Excuse me. Today, we are talking with Federica Marie Rita Livelli about AI and cybersecurity, and we will be right back. If you liked that video, thumbs up. If you didn't like that video, thumbs down. But leave me a message and let me know your thoughts. Of course, don't forget to subscribe. And in the meantime, stay prepared, everybody.